The first thing he said wasn't loud. That's what stuck with me. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't dramatic. It was calm and sharp like he'd practiced it before. "You don't look like you're supposed to be here." I remember thinking, wow. So this is how it starts. Not with yelling, with certainty. The kind that assumes the room will back you up. Let me rewind a second. My name is Jordan Miles. At the time, I was 17, traveling alone for the first time, flying out for what I thought would be a simple weekend trip. Nothing fancy. I was tired, hoodie on, headphones around my neck, boarding pass folded in my hand like I always do. Seat 3B. That part mattered. It was printed, clear as day. I got to my seat early, stowed my bag, sat down, and honestly, I was just relieved. Flying makes me anxious. I like routines. I like knowing where I'm supposed to be. So when a man in a crisp uniform stopped beside my row and stared down at me like I'd tracked mud into his house, my stomach dropped before my brain caught up. "This section is premium seating," he said, glancing at my hoodie, my sneakers the way people do when they've already decided something about you. "Are you lost?" A few people nearby looked over. No one said anything. One guy smiled like he was watching a show start. I held up my boarding pass. "No, sir, I'm in 3B. Simple, polite. The safest tone I knew how to use." He barely glanced at it. "These things get mixed up," he said. "Happens all the time. Especially when younger passengers book seats they don't really understand." He chuckled like we were sharing a joke. We weren't. Something about that word understand hit me wrong. Like the problem wasn't the seat, it was me. I felt that familiar heat in my chest, the one that comes when you realize you're being talked down to, but you don't yet know how far it's going to go. "I booked this seat," I said. "It's on my ticket." He sighed, exaggerated, turned slightly so more people could hear. "Look, we're just trying to keep things comfortable up here. People pay extra for a certain environment." Environment? He let that word hang like everyone knew what he meant. A woman across the aisle nodded. Someone laughed under their breath. And just like that, the room shifted. Not because I'd done anything, but because he'd framed the story. I wasn't a passenger anymore. I was a disruption. He leaned closer, lowered his voice. "You can move to standard seating now, or we can slow things down. Security reports, all that. Trust me, you don't want that." That's the moment I realized this wasn't about a mistake. This was about power. About seeing how far he could push before I broke or backed down. I asked one question. Just one. Why am I the only one being asked to move? His jaw tightened. "Because others here fit," he said. "They know how this works. Fit." Another word that landed heavier than it should have. I looked around. No one looked like me. That wasn't an accident. I could feel every eye on me now, waiting. Some curious, some annoyed, some hoping I'd just disappear so their flight could stay pleasant. I thought about arguing. I thought about raising my voice. But something stopped me. Maybe instinct. Maybe survival. I unbuckled my seatbelt and stood up. As I stepped into the aisle, he leaned in one last time. "Next time," he whispered, "aim lower. Saves you the embarrassment." That walk down the aisle felt longer than it was. My face was hot, but I kept my head up. Not because I felt strong. Because I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. I was moved to a middle seat near the back, squeezed between strangers, knees pressed in elbows, fighting for space. Over the intercom, his voice came on smooth and official. "We appreciate everyone's patience while we resolved a seating irregularity." Irregularity. Like I was a glitch. A problem fixed. Someone behind me muttered, "People always trying to sneak into places." I stared straight ahead. Didn't respond. Didn't explain. I knew better. Anything I said would just be used against me. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the seat change triggered a record. Timestamps, logs, systems that don't care about confidence or tone. Just facts. And while I sat there breathing slow, my phone buzzed once in my pocket. A single message from a number I didn't recognize. Don't react. Let the record speak. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I understood exactly what that meant. Mid-flight, the man came back. Walked the aisle like a king checking his kingdom. He stopped near my row. Everything settled, he asked loud enough for people to hear. I looked up. I complied. I said, calm, even. That word mattered. He smiled thinly. Good, we like cooperation. Then he turned and walked away satisfied. Behind the scenes, though, things were unraveling. His log entry didn't match the system data. The reason he gave didn't align with policy. A compliance alert flagged it. Someone, somewhere, noticed the mismatch and clicked into it. That's how these things start. Quietly. Not with outrage, but with curiosity. When we landed, nothing looked different. People stood, grabbed bags, complained about connections. I stayed seated until the aisle cleared. Then a flight supervisor approached me, voice careful. "Can you come with us for a moment? You're not in trouble." That phrase again, "you're not in trouble." Funny how often people say that right before something serious happens. In a small office near the gate, I was asked to explain what happened. I did. Slowly. In order. I repeated his words as accurately as I could. No drama, no emotion, just facts. The woman across from me nodded, typing. "Thank you," she said. "That helps." Across the terminal, he was being asked the same thing. Only his story kept changing. First, it was about safety, then comfort, then behavior. Each version contradicted the last. Systems don't like that. By the end of the day, he was escorted out not loudly, not in handcuffs, but with that unmistakable stiffness of someone who knows the ground just shifted under them. I watched from a distance. I didn't smile. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Weeks later, the company released a statement. Policy updates, training initiatives, accountability language. He was suspended pending review. Eventually, his credentials were revoked, not because he was rude, because he tried to cover it up, because he doubled down, because power hates being questioned more than it hates being wrong. Here's the part people always ask me about. Why didn't you fight harder in the moment? Why didn't you record him? Why didn't you make a scene? And I get it. We love loud justice. We love viral moments. But real consequences don't always come from shouting. Sometimes they come from staying steady while someone else talks themselves into a corner. I didn't win because I was louder. I won because I didn't give him anything to twist. I let the systems do what they're supposed to do once they're forced to look. That experience changed how I see things. Authority. Confidence. The way people decide who belongs where. I learned that dignity isn't about being polite for others. It's about not letting someone else rewrite who you are in real time. So here's my question for you. Was he enforcing order, or was he enforcing a bias he'd never been challenged on? Where's the line between rules and prejudice? And how many times have we all watched something like this happen and stayed quiet because it was easier? If you've ever been judged before, you spoke dismissed before you explained, or pushed out of a space you earned, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. Tell me what you've seen. Because these stories don't change anything if we keep pretending they're rare.